Welcome back, everybody. We are back at you with Minicast number 11. I'm here today with Connor from WCP. And today we're going to be talking about bidding in a competitive market, which I'm sure nobody's a stranger to in 2021.
Yep.
We're all struggling with each other and trying to find, some of those tips and tricks to get our offers accepted. So should be a fun one today. Back at it with a little bit of a hiatus. So yeah, just starting off, we're seeing such low supply in the market that it's really created very, very upward driving pressure on prices, on bidding wars. And it's really been a challenge on the lending side because it's actually, there's such low supply that we're seeing, a smaller number of loans,
Yep.
unfortunately, than we've had in some years past. So I do think it's affecting all areas of the market. There's no real way to escape it. But, what are you seeing, Connor?
Yeah, exactly that. And one of the fears that I have for a lot of my clients is that just they want to get into a deal so bad that they're willing to overpay on the purchase against what the true value of the home is. And that's just a product of the market that we're in, based on it being a true seller's market at the moment. What happens in a few months when hopefully this becomes a buyer's market, that individual that was, they were willing to pay 50 grand over the value of the home just to win the deal, their equity gets eaten up just by that occurring. So that's always something to look out for. And that's one of the reasons why we've probably seen less transactions to date, over 2021.
Yeah, it's really scary. I mean, it's starting to feel reminiscent of, the melt up in like 2005, 2006.
I like the word melt up.
Yeah, it is. It's a melt up. I mean, I like anecdotally, my wife and I just bought a house in Reston, actually, a new build. And I guess I just learned from like a neighbor. We were outside the other day talking to a neighbor, and a couple had bought one of the houses in our neighborhood. Ended up, I guess, going their separate ways. Maybe there's a divorce or something like that, and put the house back on market at like $100,000 more. And apparently they've been getting bids. So it's like when the appreciation is just like on an infinite increase, like it starts to get a little scary. But you have to then be relying on appreciation to assume that you're going to exit and make your margin. So, it's a challenge, and for some people, they're not going to have that risk appetite. One thing that I've seen is find you got to really work on finding your own pipeline of deals, even if that means spending a little bit of money to go direct to sellers. You can still communicate with sellers and find, really rundown homes under market value and protect yourself by having that equity built in. But otherwise it can be a challenge to kind of keep your profit margin safe. So
Absolutely. We've
yeah,
actually, during our grid events for the creating your real estate dream team, every person has their job inside of your team. Your contractor, obviously completing all the work. You have your lender for the financing. And as the investor, your job is to be finding deals. And that's one of the major things that they should be focusing on once they get all the pieces set into place for their team. One thing that I always recommend is once you're into a deal and doing a fix and flip, go 5 houses left, 5 houses right, same thing across the street, and just drop your card off. Right? It might not be now, it might not be in 3 months, but in a year's time, they've had the opportunity to see what you've been able to do in that neighborhood and do with that house. And as long as everything is happening correctly, you're increasing the value of the home, and the neighborhood. That person's going to likely call you rather than someone that's just posting bandit signs or anything like that, because they've seen your work.
yeah, that's right. like, again, just as an example, I literally just talked with like a mega agent, Keller Williams mega agent, in who's just crushing it in DC. And he personally bought a home in Northwest, and that led to the home next door. The seller reaching out to him, they saw him as an expert, and fast forward, I think 4 or 5 years later, he is either owned, controlled, or listed for sellers, something like 8 houses on a 20 house block. So
Yeah.
that is how it works. We've seen that with a lot of investors. It's especially the case in DC, where you've got a lot of tight homes all packed in together. Obviously the row houses, it's easier to kind of hit more on, in a smaller space. So yeah, I mean, and so to your point, off market deals are everything. Like, you've got to be focused on off market deals. The on market stuff is really challenging. The auctions are a good place to look as well, but there's just so much competition there. And this is actually a really good segue, because we actually have we're really excited about a new platform that we just launched, Off Market Deals HQ, and I know you've been working on that pretty heavily.
Yeah.
What are you seeing with that? It's a little bit of an early look at it, but I'm curious to know more.
We've been working on this for about 6 or 7 months now. Actually, I believe today is our first day live on the website. So as most people know, we had a marketing platform called Great DC Deals previously. We're now transitioning that over to Off Market Deals HQ, omdhq.com. What that's going to do is going to house every single wholesale and off-market property that we know about, and that we have the ability to market with that wholesaler or off-market individual's permission. And as a number, we're probably seeing anywhere from 40 to 45 marketing pieces a month. And the really cool thing about what we just built is that it's going to be very specific to the MSA that you're looking.
Oh, that's cool.
What we're able to do now is, if you have a DMV investor inside the Washington DC MSA, basically by airport, and you don't want to receive Philadelphia deals, that makes complete sense. We can segment that, so you're only receiving the deals inside of your MSA. However, if you're someone that is able to travel, wants to see other deals outside of the particular MSA that you're in, you can receive everything. And as we're growing and adding more wholesalers to this platform, we're going to be continuously adding more MSAs. We have Pittsburgh on there, State College, Philadelphia, the DMV side of things, the Carolinas, everywhere that we have the ability to lend currently on a Washington Capital Partners platform. We're building that out for wholesalers to be able to host their deals. So it's going to be some really cool things. A lot of Philly deals coming up on there.
Nice.
And DMV deals have been a really good flow as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, if you're anything like me, and I'm sure, for the audience watching, like, I hate getting spammed with deals that, are not for our market, or like, if I'm not buying, if I'm not buying in Northern Virginia, like, I don't want to see 10 Northern Virginia deals like spamming up my inbox. So yeah, this is really exciting that we'll be, as an investor, you're looking for deals off market. You don't have to be subjected to a lot of deals that don't make sense and that you don't want to look at. So price point.
And those deals are really, really good because, at least in my opinion, because it's a lot, you're seeing what's out there on the market in terms of the off-market space. I have a feeling that we have a very strong pulse of the total number of off-market deals going through, just based on our relationships with the wholesalers that we work with. It's a lot of transaction. There's some of the larger ones. Additionally, we also work with our own clients that get properties under contract. They don't have the bandwidth, or maybe they just want to offload a property. You have something that has been previously underwritten. Now we can send that out. So there are a ton of properties that can be taken a look at, and just because it's sent out to so many people doesn't mean it's not the right fit for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're testing the market. We're helping as an added benefit to our existing borrowers. Or if you've never borrowed with us,
Yeah,
we can work with you and help get that marketed. So I see that as a tremendous value add for anybody that's kind of in our ecosystem. So yeah, super exciting. That's awesome. Thanks for all the info on that. But I mean, jumping back to this topic, like bidding in a competitive market, what are some other like do's and don'ts that you see, right? So like I'll just kick it off. One thing that I see a lot is kind of issues surrounding the proof of funds letters, right?
mhm.
Um, so I would say the biggest thing is like make sure that your lender is on board. I can't tell you the number of times that I've had somebody who thought that they would be able to have a certain down payment amount with a certain offer price, and like the
Yep,
communication was just missed somehow between us, and that ended up with an issue, like, and they had already submitted their offer. So always be going to your lender first, making sure you know exactly the down payment that you need. Any good lender will be able to calculate it for you, like on the fly, either on the phone, like back a napkin, or just put it together briefly and shoot it over quickly in an email. So definitely don't be putting your offers in without knowing exactly what your financing is.
exactly. I think you said it best. For making the offers, the back of the napkin stuff is really a good guideline of it. And this happens all the time. We have people come to us and ask, "Can I have a proof of funds letter?" Great, but do you have a property in mind? No, I didn't know I needed one of those. Uh, as a hard money lender, really what every hard money lender is an asset-based lender. So if you're receiving a proof of funds for, this individual is approved up to X amount of dollars, how do you know that the lender is willing to lend on that property that you're going to be submitting on? So like you said, having them on board early on per property is really key, because, if you get under contract on that offer, and the lender's like, no, I won't lend on this, that could potentially be your EMD if you're using their proof of funds letter. So, contacting your lender saying, hey, this is what I think it's going to cost to purchase and renovate. Can I get a proof of funds letter? Pretty quickly within an hour or two, you can definitely receive those things back.
Yeah, absolutely. I do get a lot of requests from people just like, hey, can you give me a general proof of funds? And I tell them, look, if you don't have an address on there, or if it's just like, give me a proof of funds for $1 million and you're offering on a $250,000, house, they're going to look at that $1 million and say, well, this person can, they can offer more. They're approved for more. So
Yeah,
one, you want the proof of funds to say the exact amount that you're going to offer on. And two, it should have that property address so that they know that it's serious, and they may discount you if you don't have it on there. So I do get a lot of people that are like, another, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, in some offers, it's an absolute requirement. You can't submit an offer without a proof of funds with that address on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, that's a good point. Another thing that I've seen is a lot of people really, really push to try to get, like like a Word version of a proof of funds. And the reason that we've really pushed back on that is because this proof of funds letter, right? It's not just a letter from us stating that we've looked at the deal, that we've underwritten it, we're good with it, and we're ready to fund on it. Um, it's more than that, and it's a tool for us to be able to help you as the person offering, right? Like we always have our contact information on there,
Yep.
and in the scenario where we just give you a Word version of this and you just put in as many offers as you want, that's terrible, because we don't know who's going to be calling us. And what if we just get a call out of the blue from a listing agent who wants to verify that you have funds and that your lender has approved it?
Yep.
And then, I'm sorry, but like my first response is going to be like, what and who are you talking about?
I have
What
no
address?
idea.
Yeah, I have no idea. Sorry, listing agent. I don't know what you're talking about. We have not approved that. And then it literally just kills your chances on the deal. Whereas if you're working with us and we can get you a proof of funds in 20, 30 minutes usually, we're going to be prepared to be, an advocate of you and say, oh, well, we've worked together. We know of this person. They've always made their payments on time. Or if we haven't done lending with you, what is your reputation in the industry, all that kind of stuff, and help you be on your team. So
yeah, it's been countless times where I've been in contact with the seller's agent or the seller themselves and saying, yes, I have worked with this person. We can close on this date, like talking with them just to help you win the deal. But without us knowing, like, we can't say that we have any idea what deal you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It's not moral, and it's not something we're in the business of doing. So, so what else have you seen? Like, what are some other strong ways of getting your offers? One is I've seen escalation clauses, right?
Let's go into escalation clauses. In a nutshell, what it is, and then I'll let Jared take it a little bit further, is that you're making an offer up to, let's say, $500,000, right? With an escalation up to 530 grand. And then what you do is you write this escalation clause increases in $5,000 increments up to 530. And what that does is your initial offer is 500, but you're willing to pay 530. If there's other offers between there, you immediately match without having to go back. How did I do explaining that, Jared?
That was good. That was pretty much spot on. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's a legal instrument that acts as your agent to leverage your time, right? So you come up with what you're most comfortable with going up to on purchase price. You're going to know, you'll have hopefully run your pro forma, know exactly the max number that you can pay. Maybe you start at the asking price and you have the escalation clause go up 30 to 50K or whatever that number is, right? I mean, these days you're seeing crazy numbers over the asking prices. So I'm just using that as an example. But like you just said, 5,000 increments, $1,000 increments, whatever it is, it'll probably be going faster than $1,000 increments. But know that other bidders are also going to have the same escalation clauses in there. And that will give you the absolute best chance of securing the deal. So we also see like highest and best, people asking for highest and best at the very end. So, even with an escalation clause, depending on who is selling the house, they may have different rules around that. Auctions versus just like wholesalers versus whoever. So know the rules too. That's another big.
Know who you're dealing with.
Know who you're dealing with. What is the seller's rules? Like you should be asking them up front, like, how does your process work? When do you accept offers? That's another big one. Like, know their timeline, because a lot of people could have maybe won the deal if they had known and they had bid properly and gotten the offers in at a certain time and all that kind of stuff. Knew the right person, know the right representative of the seller. If it's a wholesaler, you better know who is handling that sale and who's going to pull the trigger on it.
We have countless times that we market the offer deadline is 9 a.m. or 12 a.m. and the amount of offers that we get at 5 p.m. that day, we're like, we're sorry, like we've already received X amount of offers on this property that were prior to, we can't consider this offer. So it really does pay attention to those emails and those details of the timing of things, because it will make a difference winning or losing a deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not fair. You gotta draw a line in the sand at some point. So the bidding can go on forever with some of those.
You actually brought up auctions just a little bit ago. There's a big difference in offering on auctions, off-market, on-market deals. Talk a little bit about the intricacies of offering on an auction property.
Well, yeah, auctions, and not every auction is made equal, right? I mean, you've got auction.com, you've got like there's HUD auctions, there's local auctions that are just private auction houses that do things differently. So you really have to, again, know who is the auction house, who's the seller here, what are the requirements of the auction? Do you need a certain amount of EMD or deposit to be even able to play, right? Which that's the biggest thing I see. People don't bring the right amount of money to auctions, and then they lose out on a house that they could have bought had they just had a check there, a blank check, and ready to fill it out. So that's a big one for auctions. Another one, like especially the HUD homes, know if know what the rules are around buying it. Are you, some of those they require end user buyers to be able to bid first. So you might be cut out of that, for a certain amount of bidding
You need to
period.
hold on to it for a certain amount of days.
Exactly. You like if you're trying to wholesale a deal from an auction, many of these contracts require you to hold it for X number of days, 90 days and such. So, watch out for that. But yeah, auctions are a way to go about it. It's just, again, everybody, especially the online auctions, there's multiply the number of eyeballs like on those sites, because you can just have them running in the background and everybody's probably at their desks analyzing all their deals, and it's easy to just do that. So like you will get more traction with the harder stuff, which is like going and knocking on doors and sending mailers, doing all of that stuff with actual homeowners.
How about when writing that contract, the difference between writing a contract for off market, for on market, and auction? I know, we see, all cash purchases, lending, financing as answers in there. Can you talk a little bit about the differences of those?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because we see this as a big misnomer around cash versus hard money on traditional contracts, right? So like the NVAR contract or GCAR contracts have a place where you can actually check a box that says like hard money, traditional financing, conventional financing, hard money, cash, whatever, right? So they want you to be very clear about that. There are different blanks to show how much you're actually financing versus how much are you bringing cash. And a lot of people will get cute and they'll put, especially for like auctions, they'll put cash when it's actually hard money. That can be a challenge depending on the auction house, and many of them don't accept hard money. So if you don't have the cash to buy a property, be careful that you're not putting that and then losing your EMD or something along those lines. So, but for off-market deals, again, I would always just err on the side of caution, check with the seller to make sure. But for the most part, it's a little bit more of a gray area for off-market deals. And you can a lot of investors get away with saying that they have a cash offer, even though they're using hard money. And just to take a second on why that is, it's because unlike conventional loans where you have financing contingency clause in the contract, there are not financing contingency clauses in those off-market, assignment agreements and just other agreements. There's usually not financing contingency clauses. So if there's not, there's also the assumption that you will have worked with your hard money lender to know the terms in advance and what they've approved you for. If you're working with some of the bad hard money lenders out there, and there are some that have bad reputations for like underwriting a deal, and then pulling out at the last second, you gotta watch out for that. But assuming you have everything, approved in upfront, and there's no surprises like on your side, right? Because there can be surprises from the buyer side or from the seller side that you didn't properly expose to your lender in enough time. So make sure you get everything on the table is the best advice I can get you. But yeah, that's where I would say with that. So you can probably get away with calling hard money cash in the off market space. Auctions, it's going to be harder.
Yeah, and the reason that you can call hard money cash is because it's delivered at settlement. And we actually don't have any financing contingencies. It's all based on the asset itself and the borrower too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good one. The other one we see is like around LLC docs.
Yeah.
What are you personally seeing there, like with new entities and stuff like that?
Yeah, so there's two trains of thought there. If you're using the same entity every single time, deliver your LLC documents to the lender, the buyer side, or sorry, the seller side agent, so that we can get it over the title, all those things. And now, if you are making a new LLC for the purchase of this property, make sure that the entity that you have written in the contract is exactly the entity that you're going to be creating on whatever state website you're going to be using. There's so many times where what's on the contract does not match what's been created for the property. For example, 14th Street NW LLC is not the same as 14th Street Northwest L.L.C. Those are two totally separate entities, and mistakes like that happen all the time because people are moving quickly. Just make sure that it's very congruent on both the purchase contract and the entity that you're creating, because that will slow down the purchase of a property.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then many off-market people, off-market sellers want to see those entity docs. That they want to know exactly who they're working with, and they want to know that you're real as a seller. So if you're new to this and you're trying to hang with the long-term investors and find your first property or your first couple properties, make sure that you have all your docs already done. Everything, your whole team should be built in advance of you putting offers in, because it's going to be really difficult to get a deal without that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point. You just said you make sure your team is intact before making offers. And one of the reasons behind that is because if you don't have a contractor ready to talk to for the property, how can you determine what the construction budget is going to be? When, let's say that you have an open house, you go to an open house, you bring one contract, and then you're like, I want to bring another one. I want to bring another one. Why would the seller choose you if you had to bring 4 contractors in to view that property? They don't view you as prepared to make this close quickly.
Yeah, really great point. And a lot of the best sellers out there and wholesalers know how to vet all that out, and they're going to ask you the right questions. So, if you don't have the answers, you might get tripped up. And again, like what you're playing for in all of this is your EMD. Many of these EMDs are $10, $15, $20,000. Like,
Yep.
can you survive that? Sure. Most people could be able to, but that's a really big hit, especially with margins the way they are now. I've seen some margins that are only $20,000, $30,000. So you really got to protect your cash, your downside risk. What else? Bidding in a competitive market. We've seen strategies around offer submission. If you do employ anybody or have a partner, I find it really useful to differentiate roles if you do have partners, or even time block your own time if it's just you as a solo investor, and say, like, we're going to send out this number of offers a day, a week, a month. Like, put real numbers around this, right? Connor and I are sales guys. We live and die by the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And the same goes here. You need to set your goal for yourself on how many offers you're going to put in. Also with keeping in mind, like, if you put in that many offers and you accept that many, you might have to choose between one or two, or you will have the cash to be able to handle as many as you're putting in.
That's a great problem to have.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have, and it's becoming less likely to happen these days. But I have seen a couple investors recently that put in 5 offers and they ended up getting 2, and they're like, crap, we really just wanted one property, so they had to work something out with the EMD. And depending on the seller, some are nicer than others about it. So just be careful on that front too. But otherwise, I mean, that's a pretty good run through on some do's and don'ts and general tips for bidding in a competitive market. The key is just being on top of it. The early bird gets the worm. I mean, all these sayings exist because there's truth in all of them. Like, if you're not together, if you're not organized, if you don't have a plan in place, you're going to lose. You're going to lose out to people that have, a machine built around their business, like systems and processes, to actually be able to robotically have their processes and win deals. So have your cash ready to go, and yeah, that's a big thing. I've even seen people where they're buying cash and then they're refining out just to make sure that they can secure the properties quickly and have the best chances of winning the deals. That's another strategy. So
Yep, that has been employed more throughout 2021 than I think I've seen ever in the past.
yeah, there's just so much competition with cash offers.
Yep.
But not everybody wants their cash tied up forever. And if you look at your cash on cash returns, it's going to be terrible. So that is a strategy for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I had on my side. Was there any other tips that you could think of for the
not really. We had talked about the team. The only other thing I would add is make sure that you have an investor friendly agent as well, because you need someone making those offers on market as well. You can be focused on all the off market things, and in your team you have your agent working on the on market deals that's able to send offers for you. That's a whole other avenue of finding deals as well.
Yeah, great point. Again, just to what I mentioned earlier, like really go specific on whoever's on your team and what they're going to be doing, and have somebody that's actually just pumping out offers.
Yeah.
So having your agent handling the on-market side of things will help.
Absolutely. Other than that, I think that we touched on some really good topics today. Hopefully, some of these things can help some people win some offers in the coming months, especially that escalation clause. Highly recommend people looking into that further and adding that to that repertoire, because that can be the difference between winning and losing over the next 6 months.
Yeah. Awesome. Great advice all around. We're excited to be bringing some more topics. We're going to try to get back into a more consistent rhythm. And we will be having some guest speakers. So if you're interested in having some guest speakers and adding a third person in the mix, if you can, please leave us a comment below on our channel on this video and just let us know yes or no. I don't think that would bring you value. And as always, please hit the like and subscribe button. This helps us. It helps us reach more investors like yourself, and really get the message out there, and hopefully some, what is free advice to everybody. So thanks as always. Really enjoyed this, Connor, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. I enjoy this too.
Awesome. See you, everybody.
Bye.